This is problem 31A that starts on page 99 in your text. And looking at this particular problem, they're giving you a series of transactions. No longer will you go directly to a T account. In fact, the only time you'll use T accounts in the future will just be to aid you into deciding what you would debit and what you would credit. The nice thing about a journal is that it records daily what happens in your business, and it'll show the entire transaction. So the journal is like the diary of all the business transactions that occur in a business. And of course, if you were a brand new business, you'd be starting on page 1. This is a business that's been in existence for a while. This is page 31. They actually tell us that in the directions. And it's for Barclay School. And they have their chart of accounts on page 99 showing all the accounts and their numbers. And then it starts with a transaction on October 1st. So again, no longer will you have transaction A, B, and C, which would only be good for about 26 transactions. But now this is the real McCoy. This is when you're doing journal entries by date. So here we go. I'm going to go pretty fast here, and so that I don't exceed a limit for YouTube. Here we go. When you start this off, you always want to start with the year. So the year will show at the top of the journal. And so I just put 2000 and an underline, but you're going to have 2010 there. The month is October, and the date is October 1. And you always start with the account that you're going to debit. So in this case, you bought liability insurance for 1 year. So that's going to go into prepaid insurance because you're buying it for more than 1 month. And then we're going to debit that one. So we have not put it in an account. We're just making a game plan. Later, we will go to prepaid insurance and we will debit it for $14.50. No dollar signs, just $14.50. The date was October 1st, so let me go ahead and put that back in. That's our debit. What we will credit will be cash because we're writing a check, and so the name of the account is cash. We're indenting because debits are non-indented. When you get to the accounts that you credit, you indent about 1/2 inch. So this is going to go in the credit column. What you're going to need down below is last is the explanation. And in this case, we're buying liability insurance for 1 year, and the check number is 1527. We're going to skip a line, and the next date is the 3rd. So we do not need to write October again, but just the number 3rd, 3. So let me do that. There's the 3rd. And then I'm going to go to the area to debit. We received a bill for advertising from Business Highlights. If you had an advertising expense, you would increase or debit advertising expense. And because we received it and did not pay it, it's going to go into accounts payable. First list the debit, so this is advertising expense. The amount is $320, so that's going to go in the debit column. Then we come down and indent for the credit, and that's going to be for accounts payable because we're not paying it yet for the same amount. And last, we need to write an explanation. So this is received a bill from Business Highlights. So we would need that whole transaction there. The debit first to account advertising expense to credit to accounts payable, and then last the explanation. Okay, going on to the next one. This one's occurring on the 4th, so we're going to put in the 4th. And we paid the rent for the month, $890. The rent expense would be debited to increase it, so the debit comes first, and that's for $890. And then the credit will be to cash because we're writing a check for the same amount. Always must have an equal debit and credit. Equal debit and credit here, here, and here. Always must have an equal debit and credit. Okay, now on this one, all we really need to say is the check number because we can tell by looking at the account that we paid the rent. Okay, going on to the next one, this would be on the 7th. We're always skip a line between journal entries. So this is on the 7th. On the 7th it says we received a bill for equipment repair for $288. It does not say we paid it yet. So equipment repair, if you look at your chart of accounts, repair expenses are number 515. So that's the account we're going to use, repair expense, debited for $288. And in this case, we received a bill, we have not paid it yet, we're going to pay it later. So we're going to credit, we have to indent for the credit, and that's accounts payable and the amount. And we need an explanation here. We need to record it, who it's from, and the invoice number. And so notice how the explanation is indented even more. Okay, so the debit is not indented, the credit is debited a ½ inch, and then the explanation is indented approximately 1 inch. Let's go on to the 10th. On the 10th, we received and deposited tuition from the students, and so we are receiving cash. So cash is going up, that's a debit, and our tuition is going up, and that's a credit. And the amount is what? $62.50. Increase to cash, $62.50 increase to our revenue. Notice how the debit's not indented, the credit is. And the explanation is that we received tuition. Okay, going down another one, we're skipping a line here. On the 11th, we received and paid the telephone bill, so that's going into telephone expense. So this is the 11th. And we're debiting telephone expense for $230. And we're crediting cash for the same amount. And our explanation is just going to be the check number, because we know that we paid the telephone bill because we're debiting telephone expense. And I'm going to stop this entry, or this recording.